Life is said to have originated in the primordial salt-concentrated oceans over 4 billion years ago, when the combination of physical and chemical conditions gave rise to living organisms. It was our Garden of Eden. Seawater is a dilute solution of many salts derived from Earth's crust. By far, the most important of these salts is sodium chloride, what we all know as common salt. It makes up about 77.8% of total salts in the sea, and amounting to about 35 parts per thousand of water. Though an artificial solution of seawater can easily be prepared in the laboratory, it will not support life. Certain essential ingredients would be found lacking, which occur in small amounts in our oceans. These essential compounds, known as the nutrient salts, are an absolute requisite for the life and growth of animals and plants. The main nutrient salts in modern-day oceans result from the excretions and decay after death of the very creatures which themselves make use of them. Each spring in the temperate seas, a bloom of plant and animal life takes place, not only in shallow, inshore waters, but also far out in the open ocean. In the upper 200 feet below the surface of the sea, to which depth the sunlight penetrates, life proliferates, both vertebrate and invertebrate. Sunlight is essential for the growth of the plants in the sea, just as on land. As summer progresses and the cold approaches, plants and animals die off having completed their cycle of life, their decaying remains sink, leaving nutrient salts at the lower levels. Whenever biodiversity is discussed, the ocean is neglected, yet it is the richest part of the biosphere. Of the 1.5 million species named by science, to date 80% are terrestrial. But this figure is misleading, since most of our oceans are still undiscovered. It is also an indication of our lack of knowledge of the life forms of the marine environment and reflects the disproportionate concentration on land by scientists. We know more about Mars than we know about the depths of our oceans. An example would be that only a trickle of new bird and mammal species is reported each year, but in 1983 a whole new phylum was reported from the oceans. The biodiversity of the world's coastal zones rivals that of the tropical rainforests. It covers an area 1.5 times the size of Africa, and its volume is the same as that occupied by the whole of the terrestrial biosphere. Its coral reefs are as species-rich as rainforests, and contains the most productive ecosystem in the world, and within its ecosystem are a greater variety of life forms with more levels in the food chain. The seas that surround us governs the climate on land, yet man's irresponsible exploitation of the ocean's resources go unabated. The overharvesting of species of fish at an unsustainable rate is highlighted by various reports stressing on the dwindling catches of fish. For centuries, fishing has provided a sustainable living for Sri Lankan people. With this century's technological advances, however, improved fishing methods are placing a strain on fish stocks, and catches are dwindling. New equipment enables fishermen to track and catch whole shoals of fish, but unless the numbers caught are limited, the populations will continue to decline. All over the world, the fish stocks are on the verge of collapse. Over 90% of species are fully exploited. Fishing may also deplete the important prey species of other marine animals such as cetaceans, seabirds, sharks and squid. Some fishing techniques such as bottom trawling damage the seabed, destroying entire ecosystems. Large nets, carelessly used, can trap and kill other species than those intended. Over 300,000 small whales and dolphins, over 250,000 turtles and over 300,000 seabirds die around the world as bycatch of the fishing industry. On top of the pressure from the fishing industry, illegal hunting of whales, sharks and rays threaten their survival. Over 100 million sharks are killed every year for their fins, which has decimated their numbers to a point where now, they hunt juveniles and babies, since large sharks are exceedingly rare to come by. Whales were hunted to the point of extinction, but in 1982 the International Whaling Commission decided that they should pause commercial whaling. This act saved the whales, but it will take decades for the whale population to recover. Toxic chemicals are washed into the ocean, and we continue to empty raw sewage into the waters, sometimes far out from the coast, with little knowledge of its effects. On a small scale, sewage or fertilizer runoff add nutrients to the sea, but in larger quantities they reduce the oxygen available to the marine animals. Further, plastic garbage has become a common sight, even on the deep ocean. These plastics does not decompose, but they break down to smaller particles called microplastics. These microplastics is can found internally in all the sea animals, and they accumulate through the food chain, poisoning the entire ocean. Studies have found microplastic contamination even in sea salt, and will end up in our food as well. Toxic chemicals and heavy metals, such as mercury, accumulate through the food chain as well and inevitably end up in humans. Through ignorance and greed, man keeps on taking Mother Nature and the earth for granted, little knowing that we are sitting on a time bomb that will one day explode, with wide-ranging consequences for all. We are already witnessing the repercussions of our actions. Our weather patterns have become unstable. On one part of the world, we have severe drought and wildfires, and on the other we have raging floods. We are heading towards disaster. We must realize that this world belongs not only to us, but every living organism from the microscopic to the Goliaths, and all have every right to live in this world. They are essential to a healthy planet, creating a cycle of nutrients keeping the ocean alive, and in turn keep humans alive. Man's selfishness alone is destroying this unique planet in the universe. Earth can provide enough for man's need, but not man's greed. Time has come to realize our mistakes and correct our path. This is the only home we have.